The War of 1812 is over. With peace, a new era of industry and expansion begins. We build the foundations of a united country, across land and sea. As we overcome each staggering challenge, the vast distances that separate us diminish, bringing us closer as a people, and one day, a nation.
A musket fires.
We are explorers, risk-takers,
Musketeers shoot balls of lead.
and dreamers, fighting the odds in a land of extremes. Across a vast continent, we build a nation,
Workers throw up their fists in celebration.
truly strong and free.
Against a red maple leaf, title reads, Canada, the story of us. An aerial view of a man in a vast sandy landscape.
1828, Southern Ontario. Work on one of Canada's first mega projects, the Welland Canal, has ground to a halt. Several people have been killed. Hundreds more are unemployed. And now, the project has hit an obstacle that threatens to stop it for good.
An explosion showers workers with dust and debris.
4 years earlier, this massive endeavor is Canada's only hope at connecting the Great Lakes to the Atlantic Ocean, unlocking our vast land to global trade.
The Great Lakes were the route to the riches that are in the center of the North American continent. Consequently, whoever controlled the Great Lakes controlled the key to the continent.
But the grand vision of an international shipping route is blocked by Niagara Falls, an imposing natural wonder.
When you come to Niagara Falls and the first canoe goes over, you think, that's bad. Not going to do that. Doesn't take long, and from a Darwinian perspective, to go, well, we could go around it.
To go around it, a 40-kilometer man-made river must be dug to connect Lake Erie to Lake Ontario. This would allow ships to travel up the St. Lawrence to the international market.
That gap has to be opened in order for the rest of Canada to thrive and be part of that whole system.
Leading this critical project is businessman William Hamilton Merritt. Merritt has spent the last 6 years raising $150,000, worth $41 million today, to fund construction of the canal.
William Merritt realized that Canada was a vast open land and we needed transportation infrastructure to be able to harness the untapped potential of this country.
We are fully aware of the magnitude of our undertaking. We are here for the purpose of building a canal, which by the shortest distance will connect the greatest extent of inland waters in the whole world.
William Merritt was a man of vision. He could foresee maybe 100 years or 200 years ahead of time. So he was thinking of his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. He knew that that investment would bear fruit for all time to come.
A man holds the stirrups of a mule.
Merritt's epic dream takes back-breaking determination.
The mule traces a small path in the sand.
600 men excavate over 750,000 cubic meters of earth with nothing more than picks, shovels, and wheelbarrows. Most come from Ireland. In the first half of the 1800s, 500,000 Irish immigrants make their way to Canada. John Coulter is one of the recent arrivals.
Coulter appears exhausted. A young woman consoles her baby and smiles as he walks up and gives her a kiss.
22-year-old Coulter has a wife, Hannah, and a newborn child to provide for.
We often picture the individual man holding the shovel, but really you have to see the family as the economic unit. The family came to Canada, and the woman who was looking after his kids at home was a crucial part of that.
While Hannah cares for their son in one of the shanty towns near the construction site, Coulter toils alongside his countrymen, for 63 cents a day.
Workers swing their pickaxes, and Coulter wipes his brow.
You have to remember what they were coming from. In a country like Ireland that was so overpopulated, there was this feeling of, I'll never get more than the 10th of my father's potato field. The opportunities offered in situations like the Welland Canal were thrilling because, yes, it was hard and dangerous, but there was room for your hard work to pay off in a way that there just wasn't in the old country.
1824. Construction reaches a challenging 3-kilometer stretch called the Deep Cut. Here, the canal must cut through a hill, leaving steep surrounding walls as high as 20 meters.
To create that canal opening, that's not easy. That's something that takes someone with a very strong engineering imagination.
To accelerate this project and pay off his investment, Merritt needs help. He hires Alfred Barrett to lead the project, an experienced engineer who has just completed a similar project in the US, the Erie Canal.
When you're being trained as an engineer, of course, you learn about canals and other things, but at the same time, when you actually get to build these, the challenges are just enormous.
An aerial view of the dig site. Men dig at an embankment while Barrett jots down notes.
Barrett discovers that the Deep Cut's sandy slopes are a deadly enemy, unlike any he has ever faced. On November 9th, 1828, the fatal blow.
A shovel strikes at the ground, and a wall of dirt comes crashing down the embankment.
The banks of the cut collapse.
Workers attempt to flee, but are quickly consumed by a mass of moving earth. A man rushes to the scene.
A series of landslides bury workers alive. The exact number never recorded.
I mean, everyone wants that future of a good job, to care for their family, and it's no different today than it was back then. But accidents happen, and along the way, people got hurt and people died.
Barrett deems further excavation too dangerous. Construction halts. Hundreds of men now unemployed.
As the boss, I think you always feel this enormous weight of all of your employees because they really become your family. You get to know them, you get to know their families. You feel this enormous responsibility to uphold their livelihoods as well as your own.
The dream of connecting Canada's interior to the Atlantic is out of reach. Unless Alfred Barrett can conquer the Deep Cut.
Alfred Barrett, he must be one who can accept a challenge. An engineer by training is supposed to find solutions beyond his or her knowledge. You've got to see, all right, this is my difficulty. What is the solution?
Barrett engineers an ingenious idea. Instead of digging deeper,
Take it down 10 degrees.
he'll raise the water higher. He will build a dam at the mouth of the nearby Grand River and then dig a new feeder channel to divert water to the Welland Canal.
William Merritt and Alfred Barrett smile and shake hands.
John Coulter and his co-workers are back on the job. He and Hannah will settle permanently in Port Robinson, one of many Irish families to risk everything and make their home in the growing Niagara region.
To all the regular workers that came over and helped was opportunity. They had a chance in succeeding in their own careers. And these are the people that we really need to pay a little bit more attention to and say, hey, thank you.
A steamboat approaches Merritt and Barrett.
On November 30th, 1829, after 5 years of construction, the Welland Canal finally opens for business. New communities like Welland and Thorold spring up along the route of the canal. St. Catharines booms as a commercial center. The Great Lakes St. Lawrence corridor will become the nation's most important economic artery.
When you consider the Welland Canal and St. Lawrence Seaway, it really is kind of a direct conduit into the heart of the country. There are tankers in the harbor of Toronto that could not be there right now if it weren't for that system.
Imagine what Canada would look like today if we didn't have a visionary like William Merritt, who really opened up trading and commerce in many respects between the East and the West for the country that is now Canada.
A bird's-eye view of a wide canal.
By the 1830s, the British colonies of Canada are now connected by ship, revolutionizing our trade and commerce. But those ships are slow, often delaying communication between the colonies.
Interview with Daniel Sampson.
Communications are critical. Moving troops is critical. Moving messages is critical. Knowing what's happening on the ground is critical. Anything that can speed the communication of people and ideas is critical.
1839. Shipping magnate Samuel Cunard has made the long journey from Halifax to London, England, with his daughter, Anne. A self-made mogul, Cunard has a plan to radically change how Canada communicates with the rest of the world.
Cunard was a man who took chances. He was an entrepreneur. He was a risk taker.
Well, how do I look?
You look great.
The British Admiralty has tendered a contract for delivery of the Royal Mail between England and North America.
James Cunard unfurls a large piece of parchment.
Gentlemen, welcome. I have a tremendous opportunity for you today.
Cunard sees a future beyond the sailing ship. But first, he needs funding. He meets with potential investors.
This is a new design for a steam-powered ship. This ship...
Cunard attempts to raise capital for a fleet of ships using revolutionary steam engine technology.
Black and white footage of a steam whistle blowing steam.
The age of steam had begun. We had already this first railways. We saw this tremendous possibility of linking the age of steam with the sailing ship.
Steamship technology provided speed that had never been seen before. Crossings of the Atlantic in this time period are incredibly dangerous, incredibly slow. Steam allowed you to overcome both of those.
So, Jim, I'm offering you this opportunity. What do you think?
But the technology is new and unproven. There has never been a regular transatlantic service using the steam engine.
Certainly, there are people who look at steam navigation and raise issues about its reliability. People raise basic questions like, you're building a fire on board a boat. Is this really such a smart idea?
The opportunity is there, and I guarantee this ship will take us. This ship...
To assure his potential investors, Cunard contributes half the funds, £61,000, almost $7 million in today's dollars.
To have the confidence and to have the strength to really believe in a different vision, and then try to convince other people of that vision, because you ultimately need backers and people to come on board. You know, I can't think of a harder thing than that.
So.
A statue perched on a white marbled building with a large dome.
So.
London, England, 1839.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Samuel Cunard secures financing for a fleet of ships using revolutionary steam engine technology. But to secure the rights for delivery of the Royal Mail, he will still need to convince the British Admiralty.
Cunard's expression turns pensive. A large, stately government building.
He meets with Rear Admiral Edward Perry.
Mr. Cunard.
Admiral.
He has the funds, but to outdo his competitors, Cunard must promise more.
3 ships, all steam.
Cunard proposes not 1, but 3 steamship crossings, with service from Liverpool to Halifax and Boston. The first regularly scheduled transatlantic service.
The other bids were promising 1 or 2 vessels. They weren't entirely clear on the scheduling of how frequently the crossings would take place. He was offering them something guaranteed.
Cunard also guarantees record speed, a crossing every 14 days.
The timeline?
We can be ready in 1 year.
Sir, I believe we have a deal.
Excellent, Admiral.
Cunard signs an official document. An old rundown shipyard. Inside, workers work in a flurry.
Work starts immediately at a Scottish shipyard.
Welding sparks fill the air.
In 12 months, his first ship must be ready, and it must be fast. The hull is designed for speed. At 63 meters long and 10 meters across, it's sleek. The 740 horsepower engine will drive 2 paddle wheels, helping generate twice the steam power of competing ships. Comfortable staterooms will accommodate 115 passengers.
These are, incredible feats of engineering, hope, belief, and just the challenge. But you need leadership to do that. You need strong leaders.
After 12 months of furious activity and exactly on schedule, Cunard's shipbuilders reveal a remarkable vessel, unlike any the world has ever seen.
Cunard surveys the construction, a 3D rendering of the ship.
The Britannia.
The boat is painted black, white, and red.
On July 4th, 1840, Cunard prepares to make his first Royal Mail delivery from Liverpool to Halifax. Confident in his ship's safety, he has invited his daughter Anne to accompany him, along with 93 crewmen and 63 passengers. His entire financial worth and his reputation are on the line. Cunard has even agreed to pay a fine of £500 for each 12 hours of delay.
Why aren't we underway?
We're going!
Oh, well, let's get these engines moving.
It's terrifying when you're doing something for the first time because no one has laid the groundwork. There's no guarantee of success. And so, I can imagine when Samuel Cunard was on his first maiden voyage and saying, I sold this big idea. I have lots of people backing me. I really hope it's going to work.
An engineer pulls back and forth on a handle which adjusts the position of a dial to read full.
To make this passage in 2 weeks, the ship must maintain over 10 knots for the entire journey, a speed never achieved before on any Atlantic crossing.
Various engine parts whir back and forth. The Britannia cuts through the water.
6 p.m. Britannia leaves Liverpool and disappears into the vast silence of the Atlantic.
We always talk about, risk takers. Wow, look at all the things they accomplished. Then you also go like, what's that splat on the ground? Oh, that's a guy from up there. He was a risk taker, now he's down there. It works both ways. There's no guarantee.
Cunard checks his pocket watch, then stares out at the sea.
Only a handful of steamships have successfully crossed the Atlantic, the fastest in 15 days.
Night falls over the ship, revealing the stars.
July 17th, 1840. Halifax Harbor has grown into one of the busiest shipping ports in North America. Ships come and go at all hours. But tonight at 2 a.m., there is an unexpected light on the horizon. Halifax Harbor buzzes in astonishment. It is the Britannia. She is a record-shattering 2 days ahead of schedule. The ship has made the crossing in just 12 days and 10 hours. Cunard's huge gamble has paid off.
Cunard and his daughter cross a gangplank and are celebrated by a crowd of onlookers.
Within a year, 3 new ships join Britannia in her vital role, establishing the fastest communication between Canada and Europe.
For Canadians who are involved in mercantile activity, it was enormously important because it meant access to European prices, access to European trends, access to European products much more quickly, much more effectively than it had in the past.
Cunard's steamships also carry thousands of newcomers to Canada.
It was a true revolution because it increased the speed by which not simply mail, but also people can move back and forth. The Irish, the Germans, the Scandinavians, they poured into North America, and it transformed what we were.
You had regular shipments across the Atlantic and regular passenger route on a scheduled basis. That utterly shifted the nature of the connection between North America and England.
Thank you.
The Cunard Line becomes a dominant force in international travel and changes the face of our country.
Cunard smiles at his daughter and looks proudly ahead.
He probably didn't know he was going to shape a nation, but he knew that he probably had built something extraordinary.
The sun reflects the ocean's surface.
Cunard's steamship revolution at sea is matched by another on land.
A train cuts through the countryside.
By 1850, the steam locomotive connects people across great distances and at speeds never before imagined.
The railways were very important to nation building because they connected a country that was so spread out. They created something that was very necessary to ship people and goods across this country.
The British government offers financial support for any railway longer than 120 kilometers, igniting a frenzy of construction. The Grand Trunk Railway takes the lead with a line from Sarnia, Ontario to Montreal.
Montreal is a trading city. It's at this point where all of the commerce of Central North America can converge. And if you can make that work, Montreal is ideally situated to take advantage of that.
Building this railway to connect the island of Montreal will require the greatest engineering feat in our nation's history. A 3-kilometer bridge over the turbulent, icy waters of the St. Lawrence River.
To build in the St. Lawrence took great imagination and a suspension of disbelief.
Ice floes drift down the St. Lawrence River.
I mean, that's a huge human endeavor.
1854. Work begins inside a caisson, a dugout shaft at the bottom of the St. Lawrence River.
When you're working in a river, you need to disperse water. So you got to create a chamber that's watertight, and guys got to get down there and put footings in beneath the Earth's surface to undisturbed soil.
Stonemasons are assembling a limestone footing for the first stage of construction on one of our nation's most ambitious projects, the Victoria Bridge.
The footings are the most important thing in any building, in any bridge, and anything when it comes to a structure. And that's the arm that holds the bridge.
Stonemasons carefully lower a slab of stone into the caisson.
One of the project managers is Canadian engineer Benjamin Chaffee.
Benjamin Chaffee is a Brockville, Ontario-born man of humble origins. He's completely self-taught. He's not gone to an important English engineering school or trained with an important English engineer. He's figured this out himself.
Chaffee's invented a derrick to lower the 10-ton stones.
Good.
He is overseeing the building of 24 limestone footings, strong enough to withstand the raging current and to support the weight of 3 kilometers of steel rail.
A 3D rendering of the completed bridge.
Chaffee must have been overwhelmed with the thought of trying to build a bridge across the St. Lawrence River, which was 3 kilometers long, something that was unprecedented.
Make sure it's lined.
Building in the middle of a fast-moving river comes with death-defying challenges.
It is a very risky operation. And that, you could lose people if there are some mistakes made.
A wooden ladder is surrounded by walls constructed with planks of wood.
So the risk was enormous.
Thin wooden walls are all that protect Chaffee and his men from the surging waters of the St. Lawrence. And they are about to be tested.
Stonemasons chisel and apply grout to the stone.
Engineer Benjamin Chaffee and his crew assemble one of the enormous stone footings for the Victoria Bridge, working inside a caisson in the middle of the St. Lawrence River.
They're working with heavy cranes and heavy stones, massive 10-ton stones being moved about to build these pillars. And this is a particularly dangerous spot to be working.
The workers continue to chip away at the rock.
After months of constant water pressure, the wooden caisson is breached. If the walls give out, there is no place to go. Except into the icy waters of the St. Lawrence.
A bird's eye view of the stonemasons working at the bottom of the caisson, surrounded by thin walls. The current of the St. Lawrence River rages above, churning itself into a thick white ocean spray. A stonemason struggles to keep his head above water and falls underneath the surface. He resurfaces, flailing his arms wildly, before slowly sinking backwards into the dark abyss of the St. Lawrence. A wooden barrel and the dead body of a stonemason float on the surface of the river.
The river will claim the lives of 26 workers before this project is done.
These are dangerous places. There's drowning risks, people die. It is really that simple in this kind of massive construction operation.
By the fall of 1859, after 5 years of dangerous labor, Chaffee and the crew complete the footings. Metal workers tackle the superstructure. 25 iron pieces that must span almost 3 kilometers. Each enormous wrought iron tube must be connected using oversized rivets heated to a fiery 900 degrees Celsius. It's meticulous work, hot and slow.
Gather round, gents. Come on over, please. We're going to have to work double shifts. You know, I understand this is going to be dangerous.
To speed up work, company bosses offer a combined bonus of $300,000 if builders can finish the bridge ahead of schedule.
Workers laugh confidently.
This was very, very bold. Reputations were at stake. And so I think in those situations, you know, when it is a kind of survival, we as Canadians tend to act together.
Now, everyone, back to work.
The workers swing sledgehammers in the dead of night.
In a 16-hour shift, this crew hammers home some 700 rivets.
In order to do something like this, you have to be able to take pressure.
A white-hot rivet is hammered into place.
These people know how to handle the heat.
It takes a year of non-stop labor. But in November of 1859, more than 2 years ahead of schedule, workers drive the last rivet into the Victoria Bridge.
Using a pair of tongs, the rivet is set in place and hammered in with a flash of sparks.
24 masonry footings, 3 million cubic feet of limestone, 25 wrought iron tubes stretching 2.7 kilometers from shore to shore. The bridge is immediately dubbed the 8th wonder of the world.
The completed Victoria Bridge stretches across the horizon.
I can remember as a child crossing the Victoria Bridge and always with a sense of wonder because suddenly you were launched out beyond land, headed toward other land, and you were in this fabulous, complex steel structure.
One of the great stories about the Victoria Bridge is just how we were able to conquer such a harsh climate with so many challenges. Not only that, but ahead of schedule.
A frozen St. Lawrence is no longer a barrier for trade and commerce. The Victoria Bridge is open 12 months a year.
To create a bridge is to bring two landmasses that were separated together. They really do change the world in which both sides of the bridge now exist.
Montreal booms. The economy grows, and the population nearly doubles in 5 years.
We could go from Sarnia in Ontario through Toronto, Montreal, all the way to Maine. Transfer of people, goods from one part of the country to another was very efficient. We became very competitive, and the quality of life improved.
The ocean churns into white foam.
Steamships and railways link our vast country to the rest of the world. But information is about to travel close to the speed of light.
I think it's important as humans to feel like you're a part of something bigger. I think connecting with people through technology allows us to realize how much a part of something we are.
And Canada will enter a new era of communication.
A man sits in front of a metal instrument with copper wires attached to it.
As railways, waterways, and steamships connect our country, a new technology that knows no borders is on the horizon.
Communications infrastructure is absolutely essential to Canada. If we cannot communicate from sea to sea to sea, then we really cannot come together as a nation.
Telegraph lines follow Canada's expanding rail systems, dotting the landscape and linking people thousands of kilometers apart. Dispatch signals that could take weeks by horseback or rail arrive in a split second.
A message is decoded onto paper.
Something about that response that's really magical to humans, that relatability. And so I totally get why people would put a wire across the country to try to communicate with people.
But by the mid-19th century, PEI and Newfoundland remain isolated from the mainland. Running telegraph cables to these islands is deemed impossible. Until two brothers from Quebec take a chance on an innovative technology.
Two men pull a length of cable out of the ocean.
1852, New Brunswick. 28-year-old engineer and inventor Frederick Gisborne and his brother Hartley have spent the last 3 years researching and developing a new kind of tough, ocean-resilient cable. Gisborne wants to launch the first underwater telegraph link in North America.
So when you think about laying telegraph cables underwater, under the Atlantic Ocean.
Frederick and Hartley Gisborne lay a length of cable from a boat.
Not only did you have to create a cable that could survive, but you had to lay it. You know, you had to actually unspool it from ships and sink it down into the ocean. It's incredible. For us, it would be like laying a cable to the moon or something.
The cable is let loose off the side of the boat.
How's the feed? Looks good.
Gisborne and his brother carefully dropped 14 kilometers of cable from New Brunswick to PEI. Gisborne wants to transform the isolated regions of the Maritimes into one connected whole.
In a work shed, Gisborne and his brother pore over a telegraph machine.
3:28 p.m., November 22nd.
From PEI, Gisborne attempts to send a message to New Brunswick. If it works, it will be the first undersea telegraph communication in North America.
Gisborne's brother pats him on the shoulder as he sits anxiously at his desk.
I can only imagine what it must have felt like for him to not know if it was going to work, to see if everything that he worked hard for was going to, fail.
Gisborne rests his head in his hand and shakes his head while his brother leans against a wooden beam. Suddenly, the telegraph's receiver starts to tick up and down.
That's it! Hartley! Yeah!
Gisborne's triumph marks the beginning of a campaign to connect Canada's most remote regions.
This is massive kind of infrastructural execution, right? We can't even imagine almost how difficult that was, but also how essential to link these places so that they could communicate.
Within 4 years, he installs a telegraph line across Newfoundland and under the Cabot Strait to Nova Scotia, creating the first link of these colonies to central Canada.
The people who laid down that cable for the first time, I wish they could see what we're doing today with YouTube and Twitter and to the masses, because they founded that idea, of, hey, maybe people want to get in touch with each other.
His technology is used to make the greatest leap of all. In 1866, Newfoundland successfully connects to Ireland for the first time. Canada can now instantly communicate with Europe.
To me, it's actually fascinating to think that you actually cabled under the ocean from Canada to the UK, and that this idea was born out of a Canadian.
A hand taps on a telegraph machine, and a wire behind it leads down into a cable and out into a field.
Telegraph stations allow even remote communities to get news from around the world.
Extra, read all about it!
Literacy spreads, as does the popularity of newspapers. By the 1870s, there are 47 daily papers in publication across the country.
Men and women grab bundles of newspapers. an old newspaper full of advertisements.
But it's not long before advertisers realize the most influential consumers in the household are not men.
A woman sits down to read the paper.
Even though men earned the money, it was the women who would spend because you had to support the household. And so I think eventually we found out that women were in fact economic drivers and that their voice was important.
Publishers respond by creating specialized women's pages, hoping to attract female readers. 1889, Toronto.
A woman dips a fountain pen into an inkwell.
33-year-old Kit Coleman has been supporting her 2 children with part-time jobs, teaching music and French.
Coleman sits at her desk, a downtown office building and the inner workings of a typewriter.
Now she lands a job as the editor of a brand new women's section at the Toronto Daily Mail. One of the first women in Canada hired to write at a major newspaper.
In the late 1800s, it would have been groundbreaking for women to have been represented in the media in any way. I mean, it was the patriarchal pressure of the time was to merely report men's issues, and the idea that a woman was reporting issues would have been unheard of.
Management at the Mail sees its women's section as a place for short articles about fashion and housekeeping. Kit Coleman has a radical new idea, and on behalf of women everywhere, will fight to defend it. In 1889, Daily Mail writer Kit Coleman wants to galvanize women through her column, The Woman's Kingdom.
I think it is paying us women poor compliment to imagine that we cannot take an interest in the highest and very deepest questions of the day.
Coleman's fingers press on the typewriter's keys.
She writes on many topics, including the struggle for working women.
She slides the cartridge, the exterior of a large factory.
Coleman visits shops and factories to research and document what women are facing.
So it starts at around 6 a.m., stoking fires.
In 1891, women make up only 11% of Canada's workforce, and their opportunities are as limited as their rights. Many work long hours in factories under dangerous conditions, earning as little as 80 cents a day.
For a woman in the late 1800s to take on, the issue of women's labor and write about it in the media, that would take incredible courage and a drive to change society, to change the world.
Coleman's writing raises awareness on Canadian women's working conditions.
Are you paid on time?
A woman shakes her head.
If women will and can do as good and true work as men, she ought to be paid equal wages.
Her column also offers a female perspective on topics from which women have been largely excluded. Politics, business, art, and science.
To see a reflection of oneself is very important because it does acknowledge that you exist, that you are in the world, that you are with voice.
Coleman's vivid prose and quick intelligence win her a loyal following. Female and male. But in 1895, the Mail merges with a more conservative Toronto daily, The Empire.
A man eyes Coleman as he walks past her desk.
The new management insists that Kit limit her column to fashion and beauty.
Coleman examines a piece of writing with a red slash through it, with a correction that reads, "Fashion only." She places the page angrily on her desk.
I think someone like Kit Coleman had to be astonishingly tough-minded. There must have been so many ways in which she was sneered at or undermined or steered towards writing the fluffy stuff.
Coleman thinks her bosses are wrong, and she asks her readers to prove it.
Her fingers dance across the typewriter.
Men editors largely think the women's page should be mainly clothes and chiffons. I want the honest, candid opinions of Canadian women. Do you enjoy fashion articles more than other kind of reading?
I think there's a fight in most people that when somebody tells you you can't do something, it makes something happen inside, something brew inside that I'm gonna show you what's possible.
Seated at her desk at home, Coleman opens a letter addressed to her.
My dear Kit, you fill me with horror when you speak of our woman's kingdom ever becoming a mere fashion column.
She smiles and reaches for another letter, which she opens quickly.
Since you ask for the opinion of the girls about changing our women's kingdom, let me say no. Decidedly no.
She presses the letter to her chest. Her boss shakes his head angrily.
Coleman is at the vanguard of a growing women's emancipation movement, one her conservative editors cannot reverse.
There was an uprising of women who thought, we cannot go back and have absolutely no voice. We are here now and we need to be heard.
Coleman keeps her column and becomes the world's first female war correspondent.
Hello, Kit.
Covering the Spanish-American War.
You happy with this?
I think it's my best one yet.
I look forward to reading it. Good work.
Thanks.
She goes on to become the first nationally syndicated columnist and the first president of the Canadian Women's Press Club.
She fought for a voice. She really made room for a lot of other women to also be journalists, to discuss things that they weren't supposed to.
The media is the window to everyone's world. The stories that are told need to be told by different kinds of people, and Kit Coleman was the voice for women. She is what I think allowed many women to say, hey, my stories are being told. Here's someone I can relate to. She gets it.
Coleman remains an important player as Canada enters a golden age of print. By 1901, the number of daily newspapers in Canada rises to 112. Newspapers add to the network of waterways, railways, and telegraph lines that stitch this vast land together, bringing us closer and preparing Canada for nationhood.
That's what allows us to deal with our immense geography, and that's what pulls us together. For Canada to be a nation, we have to be connected.
What actually helps bind the country together are these elements of infrastructure. Without them, there would be no way for British Columbia to even understand or speak to Newfoundland, or for Toronto to speak to Iqaluit.
I think we have created some of the most amazing projects. I think we have not foregrounded those individuals enough.
What they had in mind was nation building. And that means people are connected together. And all that would not have been possible without infrastructure.
As the next century approaches, newcomers continue to stream west, lured by adventure and riches.
A man throws his arms up triumphantly, and another writes furiously with a quill. An explosion detonates near a group of miners.
But shatters the peace with our Indigenous allies. Canada will not be born without a fight.
Executive producers, Julie Bristow, Jane Root, Ben Gould, Phil Craig. Producer, Tara Elwood. Directors, Rennie Bartlett, P.J. Naborinsky. Editors, Enzo Anile, Bryant McCready. Writer, Michael Alcock. Original music, Greg Johnston. Narrator, Sylvie Panfil. Produced in association with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Newtopia. Bristow Global Media.